And this is Pisces.
Yes, this is Pisces. So, it's the 12th video out of our 12 video series on love and sex of various astrological signs, and it applies not just to the sun like all the other videos, but to all the planets, and Pisces being a water sign is very fishy and clear-skinned, so let's see what the book from 1969 happens to say about them, shall we? This is the 12th sign of the zodiac, and the last of the water signs. It is symbolized by two fish swimming in different directions. As benefits a double sign, subjects of Pisces are under the joint influence of Neptune, the ruler of the seas, and Jupiter, the all-expansive benevolent planet. As each sign progresses in the zodiac, Aries, the first sign, to Pisces, the last, a little of what has already gone before is added to the overall qualities of the subject. So it is inevitable that within Pisces we can find traces of all the previous 11 signs. The influence of the planet Neptune can be treacherous, however, causing the Piscean subject to see life through rose-tinted spectacles. This, on occasion, can lead to the Pisceans being unable to face reality. Pisces is not an easy sign to fathom, for it contains all the elements of good and evil. A Piscean can be consummate introvert, a complete extrovert, a courtesan, or the celibate. Females born in the early part of the sign have a keen sexual instinct. They reveal erotic adventure and are completely honest in their approach. They are only secretive in expressing their own views on sex when it is likely to offend their partner in lovemaking. As the sign progresses into Aries, it becomes sexually weaker. Pisceans from the middle period of the sign lead an erratic life. They are lazy and slovenly as a rule, and beset with problems they can never elude. They are totally ineffective, seemingly misplaced in the strata of society, often driven to alcoholism as an escape, and as last resort can become drug takers. For the March-born female, the entire pendulum swings in reverse, reaching the point where the Piscean becomes frigid. Then she remains a celibate by choice, rejecting sex as utterly undesirable. The frigid Piscean born in the third decant of the sign is a different creature altogether from the Piscean of the first and second decants. She has a built-in shrewdness and sees the male only as a means to an end. She is rather like the queen bee in a hive, demanding attention, but most of all, demanding to be fiercely financially protected. She can soft-pedal her need for emotional security because she is not as important to her as being able to bathe in luxury and indulge in laziness and easy living. The solitary Piscean may arrive at sexual impasse either because she is piously and spiritually involved in religion from an early age and decides to reject the world by becoming a nun, or she may experience marriage only to find that it leaves her unable to fulfill the tenets of her basic spiritual idealism. Sometimes such a Piscean resorts to enjoying bad healths as a means of evading her sexual responsibility, and this is particularly true if she is married to a man who is sexually keen. Generally, it is her good fortune to marry a man with gentlemanly instincts who will forego his natural inclination to sex when conjugal contact is against his wife's desire. Her mate then will content to live in a constant state of nostalgia, remembering past sexual joy where the Piscean gets her own way of most of the time merely by dissolving into tears. Pisces subjects born in a water sign often produce their own waterworks. When unable to use the withdrawal of sex, which is the normal Piscean act of rebuke, subjects born in the latter part of this sign become hurt and tearful. So we see manifest in a full swing of the sign of Pisces, from the courtesans born in the early part of the sign to the nun-like characters of the latter part, and thus it is entirely surprising that some astrologers see Pisces as the sign of all things. Pisces is a feminine sign, and it is the female subject who is likely to be more successful than the male as a lover, a marital partner, or a professional. It is interesting to note that this connection that February 21st to 24th produces more famous people than any other date of the entire zodiac, albeit many of the characters may be considered infamous rather than famous according to the way one's personal thoughts and morals influence one's evaluations. Elizabeth Taylor is an example of a famous Pisces female, talented, extroverted, a sex image, and always on the news. Frédéric Chopin was another famous Piscean, although much more introverted. His love life is still much discussed and has been the subject of films, plays, and novels. George Washington is a vital historic figure that comes to mind on these dates. All present a romantic image that has survived the test of time, and one can mention many more such notables born in these important 4 days of the sign of Pisces. Sex for the female born in the first part of the sign is extremely important. It is the It is vital to spark from which all her inspiration flows, and it would seem that the greater of the sexual activity, the greater the flow of talent. Unfortunately, sex is sometimes alienated from love, and females born in this period may never encounter the long-lasting devotion for which they crave and which they tend to seek for their entire lifetime. Alas, often their search is in vain, and if they are unable to unite sex with love, they often compensate by becoming exceptionally fine poets, musicians, composers, or writers, expressing romantically on paper all that they yearn to experience in real life. They are so ardent that they also seem capable of generating the most drastic reactions in the people whom they meet. One either adores them to the point of adulation or hates them with equal vigor. All Pisceans go through periods of emotional insecurity, so great is their need for love. When they are secure, they can conquer the world. Pisceans of the first decan survive remarkably well. They have their well-developed sexual drive going for them, although in their secret hearts they still dream of the ultimate happiness, a combination of sex and love. The unbridled sexual approach to living taken by some Pisceans is simply an expression rather than a desire to find the ideal soulmate rather than their wish to become prostitutes who sell their bodies for a few moments' enjoyment. The early Piscean female must have her own particular fulfillment from sex, otherwise she will reject it, just as surely as her reclusive sister born in the third decant of the sign. Sexual frustration is always detrimental to her creative ability. She becomes too preoccupied with her physical need to be able to face the discipline of work, even though she was born to be creative. There is little lessening of the sexual urge in the Piscean woman of the first decant as she grows older, and she is just as likely to find an exciting partner after middle age as she is when she is young. In general, Pisceans are very sensitive and easily offended, even in matters other than sex and love, but often this exaggeration in their character comes from their own emotional state, and is not based on the behavior of others. The negative traits of the Pisceans lead them to be generally sentimental and sloppy with a sadistic wish to make others painfully aware of their hurts, but happily these qualities are outweighed by the sympathy and charm which they radiate in their more positive moments. Pisceans of the first decant not only possess an avid desire for sex, but they love all sensuality. They have a highly developed sense of touch, and they reveal in a completely lustful approach to all aspects of living. They appreciate romantic music, poetry, and ballet. They enjoy smart decor, and they emphasize the bedroom as being practically a shrine. They are consumed with the urge to be surrounded by beautiful people, and enjoy indulging in sparkling, witty conversation. The first part of the sign produces remarkable trance mediums, people who are literally capable of enjoying the best of both worlds, the tangible world in which they live materially and the intangible one of the occult. These Pisceans are seekers for truth and possess a passionate desire to extract the best from everyone they meet. In contrast to the sexually liberal Piscean, the Piscean female who rejects sex and personal love is inclined to retire to some remote part of the world. She elects to live in stark simplicity, taking no pleasure in anyone's company but her own, with the possible exception of a pet, which is most likely to be a cat. The more licentious Piscean prefers to have birds as pets, reveling in the exotically colored species as taking delight in taming them so they may be set free to fly about at times. While all other signs must depend on their opposing signs for opposite qualities, Pisces contains the whole gamut of opposition with its own sign, the courtesan not understanding the character of the celibate, and the celibate not being able to do anything else but spend a good part of her time praying for the worldly wise courtesan. Some Piscean nuns deliberately seek the most closed of religious orders in their search for personal fulfillment. The Piscean male does not show such extremes as the female. He is romantic and capable of being a fine, considerate, devout lover, desirous of pleasing his partner in every way. When sex and love are both part of his emotional pattern, and when he has found the right mate, he can be a very fine husband. He will do all he can to maintain his family in whatever state of luxury he has chosen, and his personal standard, and even apt to be extravagant in his own wish to give satisfaction to his mate. In both sexes, there is a marked interest in occultism and psychic phenomena, which often makes them subjects move completely away from formal religion and go off on an adventurous search for ancient truths. In the female Piscean, there is again the strange dividing line. The loners will cling to orthodox religion to whatever degree they feel themselves committed by reason of environment and unbridging, while the early Piscean deliberately seek the newer religions. Many astrologers see Pisces as a weak sign, but we query this since their own researches and observations show that without the sign lie all the ultimates of positive and negative thinking and all the energies which can come out in many forms of creative work, literary, artistic, theatrical, musical, etc. So much depends on the placement of other planets in the personal horoscope and the manner in which Neptune and Jupiter are trining and are squared, the trine being the element of the fortunate and the square creating the most disasters, as well as the inability to cope with life, in which we find the especially true of Pisceans of the second decant. It is very easy for all Pisceans of all decants to develop an inferiority complex. This includes even the ones who on the surface seem to give off an aura of success. The people whom Pisceans meet are extremely important to them, as they pick up vibrations, and the emotional temper of the Piscean can dissolve into melancholia simply due to his being sympathetic enough to stay around and listen to other people's troubles. It is essential, then, for a Piscean to find a marriage partner who can help him fight against these feelings of inferiority, one who can help the Piscean understand that the treacherous influence of Neptune has to move them from illusion and delusion into reality so that the power of the more kindly planet of Jupiter can expand itself into their lives. A happily married Piscean, capable of enjoying sex, can emerge showing his creative talent to the world and causing all the magnificent positive traits of his sign to blossom forth if he has such a mate. He will then suffer little effect from the negative aspects of his sign. The Piscean can be an enigma, a puzzling mass of contradictions. He generally needs the help of a devoted lover to bring out his best qualities. He needs desperately to be desired and loved. He wants to be loved in return. Even the celibate Piscean is capable of loving desperately, but it is not of a sexual nature. It is rather a kind of tender, solicitous love a nurse has for a patient who is very sick. It must be remembered here that this type of Piscean often sees the world as a sick place, and such behavior is only natural to him. Once married, the Piscean can thrive when she truly feels emotionally comfortable, but if there are any elements which make this fact doubtful, she will have no compunctions about seeking another way of life. If necessary, she will divorce, but this less complicated and just as easily sometimes for her to remain married and become deeply involved in extramarital relationship. The less sexual activity there is in her life, the more she will move away from the domestic scene to find someone who is most compatible with her physical needs. It is not unusual for Piscean women to lead a double life for years, and they seem to have the knack of managing this very well. It is a characteristic they share in common with the Gemini male. The less sexual activity there is in her life, the more she will... The Piscean male, although sexually inclined, is not as interested in the erotic aspects as the female born in the first decant. He likes to manifest his sex drives within the orthodox atmosphere of his own home, and if his conjugal life is not serene, and his mate is not available to him sexually, he does not slip so easily into the double life as does the Piscean female. He either prefers a straightforward divorce so he can continue his search for sex and love, or he will accept philosophically the fact that his sex life has deteriorated and will substitute concentrated application to business as an outlet for his physical energies. He is, however, always vulnerable when this stage has been reached, and he is quite likely that after living for years with a woman who has not been sexually adequate, he may meet someone else who is. Then he will not opt out of marriage with all possible speed. The first intention of all Pisceans is to be loyal, but if the partnership shows signs of failing, then loyalty is discarded as easily as an old coat, and they will rarely return to a partner who has upset them. They will depart the relationship without too much bitterness after the first feelings of hurt have passed, and they generally have been known to express the viewpoint that there is other fish in the sea. Although in general Pisces may often present a disastrous face to the world, the kindly influence of Jupiter is such that these subjects can turn to their advantage situations that would be major disasters for subjects of other signs. It is not due to their good management, but rather to their good fortune, or as the world sees it, their good luck. And that is the sign of Pisces.
You're like, look, it's another fish.
It is another fish, yes. And that's... they do like fish, because they are fish.
So that concludes the zodiac series for the sun signs, and I'm going to be doing a moon sign series, not maybe right away and not as hurried as this one, but I'm going to go into more detail because the sun sign is more of a representation of your character that you would express to the world, like the sun shining out, and like it's just shining, like its radiance of its character, or how you would express yourself, or want to express yourself. So it's not like the dark moon, your Lilith, you know, like inner dark consciousness stuff that you're not, like, no one wants to fucking talk about that kind of stuff, you know? But with this zodiac readings, we can dive into it whether you want us to or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so please like this video.
Give us please
thumbs
do.
Up, hey.
And yeah, thumbs up and subscribe, and be sure to check out the moon videos when they come out.
Yeah. Mwah. Laters.